I think, are they coming up in order? This first one's going to be 793.
Yes.
And so while we're getting the screen to work right, I'll tell you this is the one would change the rules on optometry.
This is the one that you've probably seen the most about so far. There's a lot of activity from TV and radio and all those types of things right now. So what State Question 793 does, this measure guarantees optometrists and opticians the right to practice and sell prescription optical goods within a retail store. It also gives the legislature power to impose certain health and safety standards, such as restricting surgery within the retail space, limiting the number of locations an optometrist may practice at, and requiring the optometric office to be in a separate room of a retail store. Optometrists are currently not allowed to practice in those retail stores. So one thing you'll learn about our presentation here at the State Chamber is we like to go out and gather information from both sides and actually look at what supporters and opponents are saying about these state questions. The first one would be, what are supporters saying about State Question 793? Let's see if we can get it to move. This measure, the supporters are saying, this measure creates better access to health care for a population who might not have sought out access before, removes a business regulation, and promotes convenience for patients. Opponents are saying State Question 793 will diminish the quality of care. This isn't about health care. This isn't about health care for Walmart. They're only concerned about increasing profits. So as we've gone around the state, we've actually done about 35 to 40 of these presentations. This is one where we get a lot of questions about what this is actually going to mean. So to step back and actually look at, right now, an optometrist could actually locate within those stores, but this physical change will require, or no longer require, that there's an outside entrance to the building for the optometrist to perform their duties and their doctor, their things in terms of eye care. So with that, do we have any discussion or?
Well, I think one of the other things that has come up in some of the presentations we've done around the state is
Sure.
that I think 47 states have done some version of allowing these new types of retail outlets.
That's correct.
And
so the only 3 states that don't are Delaware, Rhode Island, and Oklahoma. So basically, there are 3 states that don't allow this type of activity to occur. Some of the other comments that I've heard one last night in Duncan, and they were asking, well, what's the difference between an optometrist and a pharmacist? And I thought that was an extremely interesting conversation that actually occurred between myself and a member of the Silver-Haired Legislature.
Well, and I'll tell you, we had a recent County Farm Bureau meeting, that very same debate, and they were saying in the old days, the pharmacist, when you had independent pharmacists, knew the different medicines you were taking. They were a lot bigger player in the healthcare system because they could say, oh, you need to get your doctor to reevaluate this. You shouldn't be taking these together. Now when you're mainly got big box store
Sure.
pharmacists, they tend to be more of filling that. It's more dependent upon the doctor to have noticed those. And when we have several different doctors, that can be in question. So that pharmacy argument, depending on where you stand,
Sure.
can play either way in this.
And the way I look at this, if you just want to break it down from a high-level perspective, is convenience versus quality of care. And I think that is one of the things that is being discussed right now in the state of Oklahoma. Of course, all of our surrounding states allow for this type of activity to occur in the realm of optometry and for opticians. So it is an interesting debate, and I will say that we do a lot of polling and tracking in the state chamber. This one looks pretty solid so far, but there is a lot of activity on the no on State Question 793 as well, as that continues to get closer and closer, because we're less than 4 weeks out from the election. As we get closer and closer to that election date, I would suspect this one will tighten up.
And I would say on behalf of some of my optometrist friends, and I guess we ought to remind folks again, if you have a telephone on, please make sure it's on mute. We're hearing a little bit of background noise there, so for everybody's enjoyment, that helps a lot if you'll mute your phone. But some of my optometrist friends have pointed out that the quality of health care that you get out of Oklahoma optometrist is among the best in the nation, because they require them to go through a 10-step process. You can't go in and just get a prescription for eyeglasses. They're going to check you out for overall health, and a lot of times through your eyes they can tell whether you have other kinds of diseases or other activity. And
Sure.
every optometrist will tell you about a certain number of cases they've got and told people they needed to go immediately to the emergency room or go to their doctor to get looked at for something. And there's concern about when you box store this type of care that you won't get the same level of health attention on the other things that can be learned from the eyes.
Sure, and I think, and that is also, I agree with you, that's something that's been discussed in terms of limiting their ability to do the full checkup, and that's something that optometrists have really focused on. I think that at the end of the day, this one's going to come down to the wire, and I think that some of the questions in and around the quality of health versus the convenience of allowing for multiple locations to actually occur is just going to come down to personal preference.
I think in summary on this one, State Chamber actually does not have an official opinion.
We are neutral on State Question 793.
And Farm Bureau has a resolution that says we support Oklahoma optometrists continuing to be able to remove foreign objects from the eye. And so we've tended to be supportive of, we have member resolutions that are in support of optometrists.
Sure.
So that kind of gives a pretty good wrap up on 793, I think.